So we're gonna be creating sort of like motion graphics launch type of promo video for Motioner. Now the whole idea for this is to make these uh, using mostly Motioner for pretty much everything, right? There might be some cases where I might need to add a little bit of extra because I haven't added something to Motioner yet, but the goal is to use Motioner to create these. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna just write a text right here, and I think it's gonna use Montserrat because I don't know, I like that the way that that looks. It's pretty clean. And we're actually gonna add a solid right here for the background. I did create a sort of storyboard just by hand, just to have a little bit of an idea or direction of where I want to go with this, right? And this is gonna be black, but I think 080808 is a good color. I think I've seen it somewhere because it says don't use full white, use like this code. So make sure it's just a little bit off of the full color. For some reason, I think it just easier on the eyes. I think that's what the idea behind it is. Okay, so we're gonna add the text, which I think the idea was for the intro or the hook test is like, I should have written this down, right? But I think it was like, are you tired of animating manually? See, are you tired of animating manually every time? It seems a little bit too long, right? Tired to, no, it has to be like, are you tired of animating? You don't have to animate. It's like you want to present the problem right first, like right, strict to the paint, all right? I think it could be that tired of having to animate manually. Now, what we can do here is there's a couple of things that we can do. Since this is already centered, I think the easiest way to do these or to animate these to have that sort of like animation for each of the words will be to do these. So we're gonna copy these and we're gonna move these like here maybe. I don't know how many frames we went right here. That's 13. This is a 60 frames per second time. So we're gonna do 15. And then we're gonna go 15 again. I think it might be a little bit smoother if we do it as 60, right? So then what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna crop these so that each word is just one right there. Now they're not gonna bother themselves. So we have these written right on effect already if we want to do that. But now we can go to Motioner and we can find some of the presets that I already have made to use this. And I think a little bit of a short slide could work in this case. So I'm just gonna find this slide. I should probably create another folder right here that's just only fade and then only rotation and it has both categories in them. That might make it a little bit more user friendly, right? All right, I'm gonna turn this off and right now it's using these. I'm gonna have to disable these or lock these. What if I lock these? That's the only annoying part right here is that it's sort of like it's affecting that one as well. I don't know why it's doing that. If you know disable sync lock, disable video track, that just makes it disappear. Lock it doesn't do anything either. So the only way to preview these would be to have these white for now, I guess. And that, I mean, preview that so that way I can like preview it without having to like animate or press play and spend time doing that, right? So just do that. Now the only problem right here is also that it's a 4K timeline, and for some reason it doesn't preview correctly when you're in a 4K timeline. Also, wait, this is sliding, right? Yeah, it's adding to the first layer. What the? Yeah, like you don't have to have anything under it for some reason when you're trying to preview a transition. Okay, I'm not seeing the name of the whole thing, and that is because I have the UI set to 150% so that you can see a little bit more clearly of what I'm working on, right? And that adds a little bit of a limitation. I usually work at 100% because these are like 2K. I think the resolution of the monitor is right now. It's a lot smaller. So if I were to just screen record right here, then it'll be a little bit too small for you to see properly. I think this could work. Might be a little bit overkill, but we're gonna test this out. I think going up might be better, so we're gonna have to find this sliding up. That's it. It goes. But I think the movement is a little bit too much, so we're gonna have to adjust the vertical animation to be 0.5 might be better. I think I like that. Okay, so now we're gonna set the color of these again to the black color, trust. And then this one is gonna be the white, which was easy, 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 I think. Let's check it out. What am I doing right here? What is going on? Did I change the color? Why did all of them change when I did that? That's weird. Oh, no, no, no. I've set this up incorrectly. Should be the opposite way. There it goes. And this one is 808 0808080. I have to adjust the glow on these maybe. Yeah, it's a little bit too much glow right here. And if this happens, that's something that can happen sometimes. What you have to do, I think, is this. Copy that, and then that opens the effect. And that's just something that happens with all effects or transitions sometimes for some reason. But yeah, it is what it is. So we're gonna have to adjust the glow right here. So the glow animation, we're gonna decrease the glow size and the glow as well. And let's see. We can also adjust this curve a little bit. That's nice. Okay, now we can add this right here. I think I'm gonna have to cache these because it's taking a little bit to render them properly. I don't know what the playback. You know what happens sometimes is that I have to restart Resolve sometimes because the playback speed is like lower than it should be. You see how there's nothing right here? And just because of the texts are stacked, it's already lagging a little bit. That's just some weird thing that happened. There it goes. It's already cached. That looks good. Now, one thing that I could do is I could try adding a little bit of movement. So I haven't tested these out yet. So I'm gonna add an adjustment layer right here. And what I want to do is these. I'm gonna add motion or transition to these with the zoom or the scale in maybe. Can I add a transition to the adjustment scale? No, fuck. There isn't a way. I forgot you couldn't do that. But as you know me, there's always a way to change things. So we're gonna use a fusion composition. We're gonna add a media in, and we're gonna do that. Now this has to be set to background, and now we can add the transition, I think. And we're gonna make these big. And we need to check out, I want these to be sort of like, is it actually working or not? Why is it taking so long? Yeah, using the adjustment layer doesn't work in this case, or the fusion method either, the way that I wanted it to work, because it's not acting as I wanted to act. So if I were to put this right here, it's just going over it, right? So it's not acting. I want it to be sort of like a compound clip, right? So that way you didn't have to create an extra compound clip, and we can still modify things a little bit easily. We're gonna do these. We're gonna add these into a compound clip. Tired of having, that's a little bit too slow. Tired of having, we can adjust the timing of this layer. So now we're gonna bring this right here. Okay, we can try pre-comping these already. First text. Now we can add that. Basically, I wanted to add something sort of like a dynamic zoom to see if it's doing the way it's acting the way that I wanted to. It works. Let's go. Now let's see if we do the. And now what I could try doing here is if I add another transition. Ah, it's not letting me make it smaller. Dang it, that's a little bit of an issue, I guess, but we just do these and we're good. Because then we can actually use, now I haven't set up the actual transition for between different elements right here yet, because that will require a little bit of an extra step of adding the, what do you call it? The dissolve node, I think it is. Otherwise, it just looks like a static thing. Like let's say slide up. Let's say we want to add a slide up right here in between these two clips. First of all, I need to make this compound clip a little bit small, bigger right here for these. Like that. And if I add that, you will see that it just sort of brings that other element without making the other one disappear. So that's the thing. But what I could do is separate these for now for a little bit. I think we're going to slide this up. And make this a little bit smaller as well. Bring this to this side right here. But this has to be the outro. That's why I was not doing what I wanted to do. So we're going to do these. Now, if I wanted to do the same exact animation that I did at the beginning for the outro part, I could go to here, I think. And if I copy these and paste these, let's see. It's not letting me paste this from different timelines, I think. But I could still use that same idea. Basically, I just have to modify this a little bit. So it's a little bit similar. This was 0.05. Just have to adjust the, where's the glow? So if this is right here, then this other one should already start right here. We're gonna have to slide in. What we can do is just copy these. And we're just gonna drag that transition to that one. Just replace that for now. Okay, now we have to also do the cropping thing for these. 54 plus 559 plus 10, 109. That's 15. And then another one, 29 plus 5, 14 plus 10, 24. Let's go. And now we're gonna crop these again. Just to have that first, second, and third word separated. All right. I'm gonna have to cache these. And I didn't catch this one. Might be a little bit too slow right now because of the playback speed, but then when the actual thing happens, then you realize, okay, these might be a little bit too fast. That's what usually happens to me. So that's just part of, I guess, the creation process. But either way, the caching or the smart caching works pretty fast in this case as well. You gotta smart cache these as well. The zoom starts a little bit too far and then it's a little bit too punchy, so we might want to make this a little bit more linear. Let's put playback speed at half, or like the playback resolution, because it's lagging for no reason. Maybe I should close Chrome or something, but I do have 96 gigabytes of RAM. So you see how, yeah, I'm gonna close these. I'm gonna take a little break. I have to go out for lunch now, so I'll come back and continue with this later. But yeah, that's a good start. We can move things around. I mean, the only thing I have here is storyboard. That's just still drawing, right? I don't have a specific of indication of what the animation is. Just a rough idea. Then we can later on keep modifying these or changing things if it doesn't work. The next thing that I wanted to create was basically turn these into sort of line maybe, and then show up the keyframe processes, or just two keyframes in general, right? Or convert them into keyframes. I don't know. That's just the idea that I have for now, but we'll see. I'm gonna pause this and we'll continue in a little bit. Okay, we are back. Now, if you're wondering why we had created a compound clip for these and made it have that extra animation, it's because we want things to always be moving, right? So we have this intro animation for the actual text, and we're gonna repeat the same thing for the text 3 layers right here that we have, right? You can see it keeps zooming in a little bit. Now, if you see any weird artifacts, it's because we are playing back at half resolution. Now we have that other transition. Okay, now I actually forgot to record and I actually modified these to be coming from the side just to add a little bit of a variation, and also did the same thing for this one right here. Now we're gonna also compound clip these three texts, and I think we actually wanna have the text be, "Are you tired of having to manually animate keyframes and stuff every single time?" So we're gonna have to change that. Now we're gonna have to adjust the cropping for these just a little bit. So we're gonna take a look. There it goes. All right, so all right, and now we're gonna compound clip these. I'm gonna put second text. We're gonna do something similar to these right here, but we are gonna add a movement. So in this case, we don't want the whole thing to have that movement. Maybe, I don't know. Let me see. Motioner. Yeah, that's not correctly spelled. Okay, I think we can add this motion right here. And this is just a flat one without anything happening in it, right? And we're gonna make these a little bit big like that. And we're gonna activate the horizontal slide. And we're gonna do start position has to be 0 always, right? So if we invert these at the end, it's gonna go to the side. We don't want this to be that much, so it's gonna be minus 0.2 maybe. Let's see. See how things move? And in this case, we can make these a little bit more linear as well, because it keeps moving like that. All right, and I think we can test adding a fade as well in here just to see how it looks. So we're gonna toggle the fade, and this has to be actually a lot faster like that. Let's see. Do we have smart cache on? It's not caching for some reason, it seems, but I think we are back on. Because it moves a little, right? So the things that later on I'm gonna have to record the voiceover. Maybe I should actually record the voiceover at the beginning. Now the problem here is that I'm not entirely sure about what I'm gonna say yet for the whole thing. So I'm gonna have to be adding or adjusting this later on maybe as well. So manually. Right. So we have the movement right here. And we don't want this little jump to happen. So it's gonna have to end before that happens, right? So in this case, I think we can add the animation or the outro animation to the other text, or maybe, let's see, can we do a rotation to this? Because I wanted to do some sort of visuals of the keyframes, right? I'm gonna need something for the actual keyframe animation. I have my paper right here, and I just had the two little rumbles. What's it called? It's not rhomboid. Is that the word? That might be the word. I don't know. But I wanted to transform these text into that. So it was gonna be something like, let's say, rotation. It has to be the outro. I'm gonna put it right here. But we might need something like with scale as well. I like this one. The glow might be a little bit too much as well. Decrease that. Let's see. There. But we're gonna add a scale to see how it looks right here. Well, that's camera shake. Scale. And we're gonna have to invert these. So starts normal. The final size might be 1. I don't know. Let's see. Now I have to turn on off the fade for now just to adjust these. All right, so we have that right here. And I want this to transition into, you can actually make maybe add a little bit more. That's the glow. I want the rotation. Maybe a little bit more. I think if it's vertical like that, it will be fun. That's good. And then here, I think I'm actually gonna go into Fusion right now. I'm gonna have to create a little Fusion composition for the keyframe. What do you call this? Icon. All right, so we're just gonna actually add that right here. It's gonna start right here. How do we create these easily? Let's get rid of these. Okay, here we go. Make these transparent, and I want to use a shape. And we're gonna make these 4 sides. Let's render. Connect this right here. That's already good enough for a keyframe, right? But we could also make these 3D. What if we made these 3D? Okay, let's not overcomplicate these for now. We're just gonna leave these like these for now. We're just gonna use these. And we can also add the textures and stuff later on. So I'm just gonna make these black. I was actually thinking right now to make these sort of like a gradient and then animate the gradient so it looks like it's rotating on itself. And to do that, we would do something like adding a background right here. And if you're asking now, why don't I just add a shape into the background? Well, these we can for the reason for using shape is that you can adjust the size of these and it won't be pixelated like if you were using a normal rectangle. So the rendering is a little bit better in that sense. Or if you make the composition bigger and stuff like that. So if we wanted to make a gradient right here, just do gradient. And the gradient has to be like these. And we're gonna need, I think we're gonna need two more colors right here. This one has to be white ish again, but if it is white, we're not gonna see the difference, right? A3, I think could be good. This one has to be black. This one has to be white again, or grayish. Try to see if it works with these. And this one has to be black. So it would start something like yeah, we're gonna have to create a few things like these. Holding Control, create that copy. I mean, this is just a test, right? So I have no idea what I'm doing right now. If I were to start with all of these, is there any way I could see different gradient points? Yeah, I don't think so. That moves the gradient. I mean, we could do something like that, but I think it would take too much time right now to try to explore that idea. So we're just gonna leave that for now. All right, so we have the keyframe right here, and we can make this a little bit smaller, like that. How do we add something, little something to make these a little bit more interesting? Well, we can actually do these. We're gonna add an S polygon. Just gonna add a little touch right here, like this, and I'm gonna make these round. And we need soften the borders, maybe. Is there a way to do that right here in the shapes? Make sure this is aligned to these. Okay, that looks fine. There isn't a way to adjust the softness of these. So if we wanted to do that, we have to use a normal background. Okay, that's fine. That looks fine right there. Actually, just leaving it like that looks all right, but we need to add a little bit more movement to these, right? So let's play around with motion for one of the presets that have scale in. Okay, if we have a scale and rotation, that could be interesting. So this one has scale and rotation. That one has too much rotation, I think. Okay, this one has rotation. So let's try these. Now, in order to see exactly where, because I want these to start sort of like in the same movement. So this one will have to end. I want it to sort of follow that same movement, right? And hopefully you're not hearing the rain right now. It's started raining really strong right now. So maybe this end should be actually right here. And that way, when we start the rotation angle, I'm gonna have to, where's the fade? Turn this off for now. And I think it has to be negative 100. There we go. But it's a little bit too much, I think, negative 100. That seems to be aligned. Yeah, that looks good. And now we can add the fade as well. Let's see how that looks. Okay, that looks good. Now, if we wanted to just do what we did previously with these for the like the same thing of the thing moving, we could do these on the same one right here, but we'll have to adjust these curves. So the 1 point, like if we were to make these long like these, the whole thing will last super long like that, right? So what I want to do is we have to bring these all the way to like, I don't know if is that the correct point, but we have to do that. You can still do that, right? 0.12 maybe, I don't know. This is just a test. And now we have the actual thing happening, but then the rotation will also have to happen. Okay, so what we do is right here, we do these. We create another one that's close to that mark. This one has to keep moving like that. And zoom out of this as well. I see. Okay, one thing we haven't adjusted also is the blur. So where is this? Okay, right here. And we have to bring these a little bit lower. And these will have to be something like these maybe. That looks nice. It sort of follows that same rotation movement. There it goes. And I don't have a wipe setting on this one yet, so we have to keyframe a line if we wanted to do so, right? Now I wanted to move these. I'm gonna have to create a compact clip of this one, I think, for the keyframe. And then I'm gonna add a line in between them because I want to move this one, but I also want to duplicate to show up. So let's see, what can I do? Yeah, let's try these. I'm gonna create this copy. I'm gonna get rid of that for now. I'll leave it right here, and I'm gonna create a compact clip for these. Okay, now we have that animation working, and we're gonna have to move these. Let's open this in timeline to see exactly where that finished. Okay, right there. No, you know what would be nice? I think if I added a keyframe right here or a marker, if that translated into this one, that would be great. I don't know if there's a setting for that. I think there might not be. Yeah, there isn't something that I could do. Maybe I don't know. So if you have to like take that into account, you might want to look into adding the marker before you create your compound clip. Okay, that I think here's a good point. So we're gonna add the marker right there, and we're gonna cut these, and I'm gonna add animate into this one right here. I'm gonna move these to this side like that. And we could also make these a little bit smaller, right? Just to add an extra movement right here, just to, yeah, I think that will be fine. Let's try that. All right, now in Animate, what we need to do is we're gonna preview the upcoming clip. Since it's black, we're not seeing the difference, but it's fine. And now I'm gonna put the position of this one, negative 322 right here. That will take us to the position of it. Ideally, sometimes it doesn't work like I wanted to. For some reason, like it's really weird. Like, I don't know, I did a ton of like math and stuff to make it properly work the way I wanted it, and it was working. And then I had to change something for the portrait mode, and then it stopped working. So it was weird like that. So if that you run into that issue, all you have to do is you just play around with the numbers right here, and you can still adjust things like that. Now, oh, we can see the white portion right here. I guess that came in useful right here, so that we can see that. Okay, now we also need to adjust the scale for these. So we're gonna turn on the scale, and the ending point should not be 0. Should be right here. I think that's correct. So now if we take a look at that, and we also adjust these a little bit. Now we see the size of these. We're gonna have to change these a little bit. Delete that one. Now maybe something like these. Let's see if that works. Turn off the preview, and then right. And what I'm gonna do right here is I'm gonna have, instead of using these, I could use these compound clip as a copy. But I don't want to make it freak out too much, maybe. So I'm just gonna leave these for this one. And at the same time this is happening, I want this other one to be sort of free. How many midpoint will be right here? I think. Let's see. This is 324, 354, maybe 30 frames. So I think that could be good. I'll have to see how that works. Maybe less than that, 344, just 20 frames. Things that these are 60 frames per second, so everything is happening. That will be less than 1 second for the whole animation. Now let's do half a second, see how that works. All right, and we're gonna add a solid right here because we don't have a line one. Solid, and we have to like, we're gonna adjust the transform or the crop. Will that be the crop, the correct line? Yeah, that looks good right there. And this is gonna start right here, I guess. So we're gonna animate the crop for these. And I think that's bothering us right now if we activate these. So I'm just gonna get rid of that for now. And I'm gonna start the left right here, maybe. I don't, it has to start right here so it doesn't cut through the line that we have. All right, and then for the right, also have to start. I think 925 will be 0 basically. Nope. Let's get rid of these for now, just so that we start at nothing. There, 995. Okay. And now we make these go all the way to, I forgot to add the marker earlier, 54. Right there. And then we have this one that has to go to, I need to match the size on this. There it goes. 10. This one has to go to this side. Are we aligned here on the sides? That's the thing that I need to take into account, right? This one is negative 322. That's the correct place. And now this one has to be, doesn't have to be that much all the way till the end, right? That's it. Right here. Okay, that's good. So we have these two, this keyframe, and we need to adjust the keyframes for these. And that's the thing with these keyframe, it's a little bit annoying to do so. That's also one of the reasons why I created Motioner, because I was having a hard time trying to animate things with these. First of all, the UI was a little bit annoying. Where's it cropping? There it goes. So I want to see things right here, and I cannot move the way I want it to move. There it goes. And if I press Shift S, Alt S, nothing happens. Like if you select the motion or animate one, you Shift S or Shift F when the points on the splines are selected. And then you can easily adjust these. I always have to, like, since my mouse pointers right now is super big, when trying to work with these, it's always like a hard time to. It's always a hard time trying to like click the correct one, you know. Okay, we're gonna start these. That's right. I'm gonna zoom in a little bit so that we can know exactly. With my AC, I don't have to turn that off. Sounded like it was gonna explode. So for this one, that's what I needed to do. I don't need to bring this key from all the one to the other side. So for this one, I can bring this crop left keyframe a lot closer. There it goes. You see how it's so freaking annoying in this case? There it goes. Now we can adjust this one as well. I think I wanted to start appearing right here already. So we can now add the scale onto that one. Finally, okay, there it goes. You see, it's freaking pain sometimes. But I guess maybe I could also just get used to it. I don't know. It is what it is, right? Scale in. And we also have the issue. I need to figure out if there's a way to select which, like, have something selected and then only show the preview on whatever element you have selected. If you know about that, let me know. Fade blur. Mm. There's this shake one. I think the rotation could work. but we need to change the pivot point of these as well. So we need to go to the fusion overlay, and now we're gonna set the pivot point right here. What is going on? That's something weird in there. We maybe the pivot point of this scale has to be adjusted as well. I have to look into that to see if my movement right there misses that scale animation right there. Let's see. No, the rotation doesn't seem to work in this case. I have to do scale and fade maybe. Okay, that's interesting. That looks good, but since we are gonna need to be able to move the pivot point, I think we need to keep the center and add another. We're gonna have to add the position of these later on a compact clip. So the way that that works is we're gonna double click these, center these, and if we like the way these animation looks right here, which I think fade is a little bit too early. I see. Like these. But yeah, we want to start small. Okay, and I know what we can do. Start there, but I'm gonna add a little bit of horizontal animation as well. Now that's too much. -1. Let's see. But it's way too much. So it has to be -0.1 maybe. No, that's a little bit too much. Okay, that's oops. Interesting. When I pressed F, that stopped working right there. So as I mentioned earlier, we want to just copy these and that so hold alt on it and then it just resets it. For some reason, that's what happens. All right. Maybe right here. Like these. I made a little bit too fast, right? All right, good. Now we're gonna compact clip these and set these up to be keyframe 2. And the good thing here is that we can then move these around. And I can adjust these right here maybe. And then you just put these 322. Maybe a little bit too much. So starts a little bit earlier. So do we keep it like that or do we start when it gets to that point? Or maybe we need to keep going a little bit further crop, right? Where's the keyframe for these? All the way to 0. Let's see. That works better. It seems that the line stops and then the thing shows up. So we're going to have to start this a little bit earlier. And I think adding the blur might help it a little bit as well, because I don't like the way that this fade looks like that with the line under it. So we open these and we can activate blur. I think that might makes the thing a little bit better. I think just like that as well. Let's see. It doesn't really do much because of the fade. We could get rid of the fade or start like this maybe. No, I think if we do glow, that could hide it. Let's see. It has to be faster. All right, so now we have this, and I'm gonna connect or combine these keyframe stuff. I'm gonna add a marker right here just so that we know. So we are gonna do this. Select all of those elements, and we are going to add a new common clip. I said keyframes joint. I think that's the correct way to spell it. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. And if it's not, well, it's no big deal. Now, what's the animation that we can add right here? Right now, we need to open this in timeline. I think keyframe compound 1 is a little bit short. Let's make this longer. Oh, got something else that's gonna make all of this long, I guess. Huh, why is it getting cut right there? What doesn't make sense? This is correctly set up right here. Oh, we're missing these right here. There it goes. Sometimes when things like that happen, it's not a big deal. Okay, so in this case, we want the outro to animation. So we're gonna start it as the outro. We're gonna do something similar to this, but we are going to use this for the outro animation. Now, what is gonna be the outro? I can use. Did I put the scale controls? Let's see. I'm gonna check out if I put Y and X controls here. No, the scale is all in one thing, because then otherwise I could have done something a little bit different to make them sort of like warp together, right? If I make these like that, where we have the fade, it's already starting way too early. But what we can do is we're gonna move these all the way to 0.9. So then we're gonna start. That's a little bit too early still, but that's the blur, I think. Yeah. And we have the rotation is already too much. Press Shift L with these selected, and the rotation just has to be slide rotation. That is way too much rotation. It's gonna be just 5. Maybe that's too much. And we want to add a little bit of scale also as well. That's becoming smaller. Do we want these to be a little bit bigger maybe? If I set this to 0, it will end in 0. So it will become really small. And then I can set this all the way to 0.8 maybe. Bring just a little bit higher like that. Add another point right here. Set this to 0 and then 0. And now we have a linear animation of that. We slowly becoming bigger and then it becomes small like that. What we could do also in the rotation is also like that, make it rotate again like it rotates right here, become small. But I think having a little bit of not that ending point rotation right there would be better. So we could just leave the scale. Yeah, we're gonna do that. We're gonna delete these. I'm gonna press Shift L, and this is gonna be not 0, but it's gonna be just 0.8. And I want the movement this to be already moving when it starts. That rotation may be a little bit too much already. Just one, just so that it keeps moving, right? Wait. There's something missing right here. Is that? No, it's supposed to be like that. But I think maybe just no, it's not the playback resolution. What the heck is that? It has to do something with the caching and playback resolution, I think, because it doesn't make sense. If I delete that, could it be that the transition is actually breaking it? I wouldn't think that's the case. If I open this in Fusion, it will look normal, I think. Yeah, it looks normal. Maybe the transition is making it act in a weird way. I don't know if we should just continue with this idea then or not, because or if I turn these off, that doesn't do anything. Scale. Oh, the scale might be affecting it a little bit. For some reason. Hmm. That's weird. Now, if I were to add a normal motioner to that, let's see if that same thing happens. We have to invert these, activate scale. I added the camera shake, not the scale. Yeah, we see that same issue again with the scale. We're gonna open these in Fusion to see if that's no. There is something wrong here with the scale and the way that it's affecting it. Not entirely sure why that is. I'm gonna have to check. I'm gonna have to figure out why that's doing that. Maybe restarting DaVinci might fix it. I'm gonna do that just to test out before actually jumping into things and deleting things. So I know what the issue was. There was something wrong with the caching. As you can see right here, when it's cached, we can see these weird markings happening. I tried it. Maybe it was a timeline. So I put it in 4K. Same thing, even worse stuff. Then I said, okay, let me try to turn off the cache. And then now it doesn't work anymore. Damn it. Let's actually delete the cache, all of it. And we're going to put playback to full. There we go. Now without the cache, it looks like that. So yeah, can still work. Sometimes the caching makes things a little bit weird. So you can also use, instead of having the smart one, use user. And that means that usually, well, in theory, I think is the user want all the renders whenever you tell it to render, but then sometimes still renders it because it's set out to automatic right here when you do render cache fusion output. So if this is an auto, it will still try to render it, I think. So that's what usually happens. So nonetheless, still renders things. But yeah, we have these right here. And the last part, instead of it just shining, we can actually add what could we add? That's the thing though. I could just make it smaller instead of rotating it small. I know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna add a little bit of like sort of like a smooth cut slide, and that would what do you call it? That would make it a little bit easier to transition to the next animation, which introduces just the motion, which is these sign right here, right? So it will be a little bit of a jump, like slight. Let's try that with these. So we're gonna do horizontal animation, horizontal slide. Gonna start it up in, let's see, 605, 35. It's half a second. Let's see. We're gonna have to bring this all the way to it needs to be inverted also. Shift S, actually Shift F, I press right there. And it will have to be a little bit more impactful, so I have to press Shift S again. Make these really shocking like that. And the same thing I'll have to do with the blur stuff, I guess. So we're gonna have to move these a little bit closer for the fade, and it has to be a little bit more impactful. Let's see. Right, let's see. The movement is a little bit too much, I think. So we might have to decrease this movement a little bit to 0.05 maybe. Right, let's let it render this part right here because it's still rendering that, and it's making it to be a little bit of a like annoyance. I'm gonna let it render all of these for a few seconds, and I'll be right back. All right, all right. So we have that cutscene right there. I'm gonna have to render all of these, cache these because it's just not doing what it's supposed to do. It's still lagging a little bit. This one still has to do a little bit. Yeah, it's a little bit annoying sometimes that you have to sort of like, I don't know if it's just me or if I have to restart. Let me try that. I'm gonna close and open the project again without restarting Resolve and see if that does anything. That worked. There's a little bit of a I'm gonna have to make this a little bit like that maybe because it seems that maybe I don't know. It just that one there's a little mini something that feels a little bit off for me for some reason. Okay, but we have these, and then okay, we got that.